Heartbeat Alaska is brought to you by Coca-Cola, serving Alaskans quality soft drinks since 1937. By Cook Inlet Region Incorporated, an Alaska Native corporation promoting economic and social progress for people throughout the state. By the generous support of the Alaska Native Health Board.
Welcome to Heartbeat Alaska. I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you Native news across the North. In October, we will celebrate our first-year anniversary. During this past year, we've aired programs throughout Alaska and Canada via satellite. Recently, we added KJUD-TV in Juneau and KUAC-TV in Fairbanks. Today is a special program. We'll be bringing you some of the stories that we've aired beginning in October of 1992. But first, here's Gary Fife with National Native News.
This is National Native News. I'm Gary Fife. U.S. Interior Secretary Bruce Babbitt met with representatives of the Gwich'in tribe in Fairbanks, Alaska last Sunday, August 15th, to hear their concerns about subsistence and drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. The Athabascan tribe opposes drilling in Anwar because they fear it would affect the caribou herd they depend on for subsistence. On Friday the 13th, Babbitt heard from Inupiaq Eskimos of northwest Alaska who support oil development in the refuge. Babbitt, accompanied by Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs Ada Deer, has been visiting native villages and other areas of Alaska to find out the top issues of concern in the state. They met Tuesday with leaders of the Tlingit and Haida tribes and then with Eskimos of southwest Alaska on Thursday. Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs Ada Deer has already announced her interest in tribal sovereignty for Alaska Native villages, and that raises questions about who will hold lands currently under corporate status. The federal cleanup of the Project Chariot site at Point Hope in western Alaska did not finish as planned last week. Among other things, the U.S. Department of Energy is dealing with a second source of radiation not far away from the original cleanup sites. The government is trying to clean up radioactive materials left behind by Project Chariot workers who did not tell Alaska Natives about the plan. They've been angry about those findings, but now North Slope Project Coordinator Ray Kunick says the discovery of cesium-137 readings at another site came as a surprise. Mayor David Stone of Point Hope says residents there are skeptical about governmental reassurances. Stone says federal agencies have been secretive about their Cold War experiments in the Arctic, and that raises suspicions among residents. The radiation was found by a Colorado company hired to monitor the cleanup. A DOE spokesman says the low levels of cesium pose no health hazards. The Inuit of Grice Ford, Northwest Territories, Canada, are seeking $8 million in reparations for their forced resettlement from their land in northern Quebec 40 years ago. The people were settled there by the Canadian government to back those claims to high Arctic land at a time when U.S. and former Soviet Union submarines cruised waters in that area. 17 families were recruited from Quebec and left to fend for themselves. After 4 years of dealing with an infant mortality rate that is nearly double the national figure, the Shoalwater Bay of Washington is getting some reaction from the Indian Health Service, although they say it's a slow reaction. After first asking for help in 1990, the Indian Health Service is now investigating claims by the tribe that the federal agency was slow in responding when a tribe called for help because its infants were dying. A recent study shows that of 19 shoalwater pregnancies in 4 years, only 9 children are alive today. The message about the need for education has apparently been sinking in among Native American students. Brand new results for the 1993 National Scholastic Aptitude Test, the SATs, show that Native American students had the biggest gains among minority groups in the last year. The College Board, the group that gives the test, says college-bound Native American students increased their verbal and math skills 5 points on the average. Since 1976, Native students have raised their math scores 27 points and their verbal scores by 12 points. Almost 7,500 Native students took the SAT this year. A little more than half of them were female. And finally, this month, the Nebraska town of Oak plans to go ahead with a planned reenactment with white men dressed as natives, burning wagons and cabins, and charging tourists to watch it. Oak Village Board Chairman Tom Jensen says a spokesman was wrong when he said the event would be canceled if natives protested against it. Frank Lemire, director of the Nebraska Intertribal Council, has criticized the reenactment as offensive. This is National Native News, and for Heartbeat Alaska, I'm Gary Fife.
Thanks, Gary. We'll be back with stories from Heartbeat Alaska right after these messages. Don't go away.
We have always felt in harmony with the land.
Chakome, tapiwa, ta skumok, ta tapiachu, kenok anesche, matapiwa, makaspumos, akum.
Help the Soil Conservation Service help our earth. Call us today. We owe it to our children.
I'm Joanne Nick from Bethel, Alaska. I watch Heartbeat Alaska.
My name is Shishmaref. Many times our culture is lost through substance abuse. Here at Aquila House, you can regain your culture as well as your life. We use a holistic approach to treating addictions.
I'm Dorothy Pesterkoff. If you or someone you know is suffering from drug and alcohol abuse and would like help, the Aquila Native Services can help you. We are a long-term treatment program within the Aquila House therapeutic community, so please call us.
If you have news or information from your village or community, please call Heartbeat Alaska, area code 907-563-3507, or fax 907-563-7079.
In October of 1990, I began airing news packages. Those are news stories over Chemo 13 in Anchorage. That program was called Northern Lives, and out of that was born Heartbeat Alaska. We'd like to begin by showing you some stories that we aired on Heartbeat Alaska. The first one on the seal tannery in Shishmaref. Now, this was aired last January. The tannery initially got started on January 1st, 1991, and are currently on their third year of operation. The tannery is committed to providing its customers good, quality, fast service on tanning hides. The tannery employs 5 year-round employees, which includes 3 tanners, tannery manager, and secretary bookkeeper. They also employ others on an as-needed basis for odd jobs. The tanner has provided much-needed employment for Shishmaref, boosting the local economy in a variety of other ways. And though they don't have a wide variety of furs, they carry mostly what the Alaska Natives use every day. And if they don't have the kind of fur that an individual needs, they'll special order that fur. The long-range goal of the tannery has been to create a culturally appropriate, tradition-based, local industry, utilizing renewable resources and the byproducts of subsistence hunting and reindeer herding. They've determined that this would be the most viable economic development strategy for that village. Bringing the Shishmaref Traditional Industries Center into full operation has been a big step towards achieving a stable cash economic source for their community. The tannery has tanned over 3,550 animal skins from 94 villages around the state. The tanning fees are slightly lower than that charged by tanneries in Anchorage and the lower 48 states. In March of 1993, I interviewed John Johnson of the Chugach Heritage Foundation on repatriation.
He overcomes. He's invincible. Well, as a result of the Exxon Valdez oil spill, a flood of workers came across Prince William Sound to clean up the oil spill, and as a result of the increased population, new population out of workers out there, they uncovered and discovered a prehistoric burial in an old site in Prince William Sound that was overlooked by archaeologists from the Exxon team, and was overlooked, and as a result it was vandalized, and theft of human remains occurred out there.
And thus we have come to this point today, and Father Luke and I are very privileged that we can be here at this place and reinter the remains of this person who in some way is a representative of all the people of this area.
One time this large cave was made out of a pillow lava at one time, and it's a real deep cave, and it was at one time in prehistoric time, probably thousands of years ago, it was used for habitation. People lived in these locations, and then as the populations moved on, they buried their leaders in there, their chiefs or shamans, and these caves were reverted back to as a burial locations. Boy, I think it really has really affected them a lot. The oil spill was bad enough on the spirits of the people, but when people start to mess around and destroy a part of your culture and your history, I think it really hits a sensitive point. One thing about places such as these is the most revered sites are burial places. They're your direct ancestors, and people have a respect for these areas. They try to avoid them, try to leave them alone and leave them stay in their natural state and respect the wishes of the people long ago as they are now.
Heartbeat Alaska is made possible by our viewers who send me video from their villages just to share news with you. Let's go to the Bethel area, actually south central Alaska, the village of Akiachak.
Organizers of the education conference say their mission was to let parents know that students must be able to step back and forth between two worlds. Throughout the day, parents had a chance to see how the Yupik culture is incorporated into the curriculum. In one class, students demonstrated how to cut up a seal. Other children showed off their handiwork. As one parent put it, the children need hands-on experience with traditional activities at an early age so they can appreciate it when they grow up and feel proud about their heritage. Parents were also shown how students are using high-tech to preserve their culture. Many of the students are using computers to publish stories about traditional life. And parents were invited to try their hand at using technology. The welding exhibit really got the fathers fired up. In Bethel, I'm Rhonda McBride.
Rhonda McBride from KYUK-TV in Bethel gave us that story. That was the 3rd Annual Elders Conference held in Akiachak last March. Last April, at Point Hope, there was a reburial of ancient bones. The remains were removed from a cave at Cape Lisburne in 1908 by Jack Sipes, who was exploring the area during a break from his trip on the North Star. He brought the mummies to the lower 48 and showed them at circuses and sideshows as 2 Eskimo mummies. The remains are estimated to be about 900 years old. The remains were returned to Point Hope by an individual wishing to remain anonymous, who used the Cincinnati Museum of Natural History as a go-between. The remains had been in a private collection. The federal government recently passed a law called the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. This act requires federally funded institutions to return the remains and funerary objects of Native Americans to their tribes, but has no enforcement authority over private collections. The people of Point Hope held a service at their Episcopal church before burying the remains in the cemetery. Prayers were said, and the hymn, "Somebody's Praying for You," was sung as the grave was buried under the dirt. The bodies were returned in a plain wooden crate, despite assurances from the anonymous individual in Cincinnati that they would be ready for immediate reburial. From Point Hope to Hooper Bay, in May of '93, we aired this story on the Hooper Bay Elders Day celebration. The Yupik culture is a strong culture. They encourage their youth to learn about tradition, including speaking Yupik, which is required for graduation in high school. Dolores Coegley and Julia Springer, Yupik teachers at Hooper Bay School, guided the students in an afternoon of honoring elders. The big event of the day was a basketball game, youth against the elders. The elders proved to be not only sources of wisdom, but great athletes as well. They won the game. Not to be outdone like true competitors, the elders furnished their own cheerleaders. Helen Smith, Maggie Hoschler, and Karen Smith brought the crowd to their feet. The youth gathered around and listened to the elders tell stories, first in Yupik, then interpreted into English.
I don't even get some of it, but maybe your parents always tell you the same thing.
A Yupik gathering would seem incomplete without a feast, and the students came through for the elders. They served them a traditional meal of a Chugach, or Eskimo ice cream, frozen fish, and fry bread, or what the Yupiks call oil bread. Congratulations to the students of Hooper Bay School for honoring their most precious citizens, the elders of Hooper Bay.
45-32.
Airing stories on elders is one of our favorite things here in Heartbeat, Alaska. Another Elders Day celebration, this time in Holy Cross.
Along the river in the mirror, I'm thinking about you. Oh, I'm thinking about you, Jolly Dawn. Hey, yeah.
The village of Holy Cross sits on the banks of the Yukon River. In 1888, Holy Cross was established as a Catholic orphanage and mission following a flu epidemic that devastated the native people around the state. Children from all over Alaska were sent to the mission, which closed in 1956. Today, 277 people have made Holy Cross their home, a unique village mix of Athabascans and Yupiks. Had gone by without a formal honoring of elders. But last weekend, the villagers made up for lost time in grand style with Holy Cross Elders Day.
When I get a hemo, this is on me. Just tip me over and pour me out.
So many of you elders give so much support and guidance to the younger ones, and I'd really like to say thank you.
Around the same time that the mission was established in 1888, across the river, the old village site of Korofeski was eroding into the Yukon River. The villagers of Korofeski decided to cross the river around the mission site and settle in, which is now known as present-day Holy Cross.
You see your name here.
All the elders walked away with gifts, such as the jackets with their names on it. The Elders Day Committee, Debbie Turner, Philip Dementiff, Sandra Dementiff, and Sharon Whitley, raised money through bingos, bake sales, raffles, and they wrote over 20 letters for donation requests and received a wonderful response. The response to the potluck wasn't so bad either. People stood in line for baked whitefish, a Chugach, roasted moose meat, fish strips, stew, homemade bread, and the list goes on and on.
Along the river in the mirror, I'm thinking about you. Oh, I'm thinking about you, Jolly Dawn. Hey,
The Marshall Band, they're one of my favorites. I'm still waiting for more video from them. We'll be back with more stories from 93 on Heartbeat Alaska right after these messages.
Ki, olak na si. Kinyak to siya nakto si sa Jenny Queen piyenganik apayom. Kuyana, tekuva. Hey.
Fire can turn any room in your house into a death trap. Make sure your family knows 2 ways out of every room. Plan ahead for fire.
This message was brought to you by the Yukon-Kuskokwim Health Corporation as part of the National Community Volunteer Fire Safety Project.
Jacob.
Ruby.
Joseph.
The names are many. Walter. People from the bush.
Buddy.
People from the cities. Alex. Eskimos.
Susan.
Aleuts. Indians. George. They're all our people.
Peter.
Deaths from alcoholism must stop.
Herman.
And there's help. Julie. It's at the Alaska Native
Moses.
Alcoholism Recovery Center. Daniel. Call Anarch now.
Alice.
For yourself, Tommy. for a friend,
Carl.
or for a family member. Mike. Honor our dead, Jack. but celebrate life.
Sergey.
Call Anarch. Sam.
Rachel.
Heartbeat Alaska is the only Native news aired statewide. Owned by Natives, produced by Natives, staffed by Natives.
What?
I forgot my Heartbeat Alaska is the only Native news aired statewide. Owned by Natives, produced by Natives, staffed by Natives, for Natives, about Natives. But our stories appeal to everyone.
Because next weekend is my birthday, and because I've gotten many requests for it, I am going to re-air the Greenland Rock video, the Eskimos singing in their native tongue, Greenlandic. Also, our new viewers in Fairbanks and Juneau have never seen it. Enjoy.
Mayoapu Isom na katua suka Inoredu Naojuku Isom na kaingibi suka Pamaner sunduler so Siaro aktiyo Tamarino Bisa satu Intiyo
Those are just a few of the stories that we've aired in 1993 thus far. Of course, there's many, many more to come. And please remember to send me your video. Just give me a call, and I'll tell you how to get it to me. Next week, we'll be giving you a special production from KYUK-TV in Bethel. For a time now, we've been talking about sharing news from the Russian people. And next week, KYUK-TV is helping us do just that. We'll be airing some packages in Russian first and then in English. We look forward to that. And also, I look forward to news from you. Please give me a call. Let me know what's happening in your village. This is what makes Heartbeat Alaska work. Until then, I'll see you next week. I'm Jeannie Green, bringing you native news across the north. Send me video.